Hi, I'm Sarah Hart from Drive Hart, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the opening and closing of a lesson. By opening, we mean the preamble that we have before we actually set off driving. Your opening wants to be about 8 minutes long, possibly 10 minutes, and it's really important you get all the points in that you need to, particularly for your Part 3 exam and your standards check. So the opening is about meeting and greeting your pupil, chatting to them about what they've been doing since they last saw you that's relevant to driving. Have they had any driving practice with their parents? Have any issues arisen from that driving practice? Any issues that have arisen maybe need to be addressed today in your lesson with them. Whilst you're talking to them, also assess them. Make sure that they're fit to drive. If you see signs of exhaustion or tiredness or obviously alcohol or drugs, then obviously you're going to need to discuss that and maybe you won't be able to take the lesson. So you're using that as an exam and an exposed session as well. So having discussed that's your sort of opening with them, then you move on to the plan for today. So the plan will include, last lesson you decided that you wanted to address XYZ. Is that still something you want to do? Maybe the discussion about the private practice has adjusted that. But get their agreement on what they want to do today and perhaps use some scaling. So on a scale of 1 to 5, where would you put yourself on St Mark's Roundabout? How can we aim to get that score higher? How would you like to do that? What sort of help from me would you like? What type of learning and teaching styles would you like? So you're just exploring the way that you're going to manage the lesson. Then at the end of the session of the opening, it's about the risk and responsibilities. This is extremely important. You would be discussing with them about that you want them to take responsibility for the car, for any passengers you might have, and for other road users. So as much as possible, you'd get them to take responsibility. But of course, you will explain to them you do have dual controls, which you would use if you need to, and if you did need to use them, you'd always explain to them why you've had to use them. And you'd also be very clear about when you hand responsibility back to them. So at all times, they will know whether the responsibility is lying with you or with them. So that's basically your opening. Basically as well, you're going to be telling them you're going to try and stretch them, trying to encourage them to learn from the lesson today in managing the risks out on the road. So that in a nutshell is your opening. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of role play with Jack. So she's going to play my pupil, although you can't see her, she's going to be doing the voice on the video. So, hello Jack, how are you today?
All right, thanks. Cheers, Sarah.
Good. Have you had a good week?
Yeah, it's been great.
Good. Have you had a chance to have any private practice?
Dad took me out into the city, but it was a bit of a mess, really.
Right. What do you mean it's a bit of a mess?
Well, he sort of freaked out a bit. And he made me freak out a bit.
Okay, so when you say freak out, what actually happened? Anything specific you could?
Well, he sort of tried to reach for the handbrake at one point, and apparently
Okay.
I was not very good in the one-way system.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I've not been through that system before, and I found it really difficult.
Right, it's pretty busy, isn't it? It's a bit challenging.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that perhaps going forwards with your private practice, you should stick to what we've done, practice what we've learnt, and then I'll take you through the new phases of things?
Yeah, I think it might be good if you could have a chat with Dad about where we're up to, because he had a look at the book, but he seemed to have his own ideas about what I needed to do. So
okay, yeah,
I think it would be good if he had an understanding of what I'm doing. So
I can certainly call him if that would be okay. But don't forget he can always sit in the back on a lesson. He's more than welcome if you're happy for him to sit in the back.
Actually, that would be good. He's got a very free week next week. I'll ask him if that's okay.
Yeah, brilliant. That would be absolutely great. And then he can really get to see what we do, how we do it. And I think that would be quite an eye-opener for him. So should we agree that we'll do that? We'll get that organised?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Brilliant. Okay. So at the end of last lesson, we decided you wanted to have a look at St Paul's Roundabout.
Yeah.
Is that still something you'd like to do?
Yeah, because I went into the town, and I know we've been through the town, but and I didn't seem to have the same problems. But this time, I really would quite like to combine it with a bit of that town.
Well, I think that's a really good idea. So we could certainly combine a bit of St Paul's Roundabout with a bit of city work, and then perhaps with your dad in the back next week, and then after that you might be happy to go back into the city with your dad.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, we're okay with that then. So on a scale of 1 to 5, we've done a little bit on St Paul's, haven't we? In terms of your knowledge of the roundabout, where would you scale yourself? 5 being very knowledgeable, 1 being not at all.
Well, I know the rules, but sometimes when I get on there and it's busy, I sort of lose it. So I would say, my knowledge is quite high. I know, if we're going right, it's right lane and right signal, isn't it, and things like that. But it's just when it gets busy, I get a bit scared.
Okay. So in terms of your confidence there, would you, on a scale of 1 to 5 again, with your confidence on St Paul's, what would you put
No, when it's busy, I'm not. No.
Okay.
So I think that's probably 1 or 2, quite low.
Okay. So how do you think that we could get those scores up by the end of the lesson?
Well, it'd be good to do some practice of the rules.
Yeah. Okay. So perhaps look at our maps.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do that.
And then just sort of a bit more practice with it, really.
Okay. And combine a bit of city work with that as well.
Yeah, that would be really good. Because I think that's what my dad wants me to do, because he works in the city, you see.
Yeah. Okay. So if our aim is, but by the end of the lesson, then we're going to get you more comfortable on St Paul's and more comfortable in the city, and we'll do that by a series of looking at maps for the roundabouts and practice, and I'll give you all the help and support you need.
Okay.
So in the city then, what sort of help would you need from me? Do you think you'd want full instruction or just prompted, or would you like...
Well, I think when I was with you last time it was okay, but I've just lost a bit of confidence with it. So yeah, if you could make sure I'm okay, a bit prompting.
Okay, well you know that I'm not going to let you flounder, so I'll give you as much instruction as you need, but also where you're able to deal with it, I'll leave it to you to a certain extent. But I am always there to back you up, you know that.
Yeah, that's
Great. All right. So as much as possible today then, Jack, I want you to take responsibility for the car, for us and for other road users out there. But as you know, I have got my dual controls, which if I need to use, I will use. And if I do need to use them, we'll always discuss why I've had to use them.
Yeah.
We might have to pull up and discuss that. We might, if it's just something small, we might be able to discuss it on the move. So at all times, I'm going to let you know who's got the responsibility. So it's a bit like a set of scales. Most of the time you're going to have the responsibility. My responsibility is minimal. Maybe if I have to step in and use the duals, my responsibility will go up and yours will go down. But I'll always tell you when I've handed responsibility back to you. So at all times you'll know when you have responsibility. Does that sound okay for you?
Yeah, that's right.
Brilliant. Have you got any questions before we head off?
No, that's great. We'll get going.
Right, okay, Jan, that's it then. So let's get moving when it's safe.
And that was 7 minutes and 12 seconds in duration.
Okay.
Okay, moving on now to the closing.
Yep, so the closing really is just about recapping what happened in the lesson, dragging out any key and salient learning points, asking them what they think they've learned, and setting up a plan for the next lesson. It's a good opportunity to discuss what sort of homework you're going to send over to them. You might send them some homework to do with their supervising driver. You might send them away with some maps of the roundabouts to learn and look at and come back next week with something. So drag out what you've learned, get the next lesson set up, and obviously schedule your next lesson in. Make sure you know when, where you're going to meet, the length of the lesson, set a good, clear plan for that next lesson, and obviously exchange your payment and update your My Drive Time records at the same time.
And to assist potential driving instructors, Drive Hart have developed an aid. Could we have a look at that?
So that's the opening.
Bring it forward. So as we can see, it's got introduction, review, what the plan was agreed last week, the aims and support and resources required, and moving on to the risk responsibilities. Could you just bring it forward so it's not in the light? Copies of these will be available for you at the office. And turning it over, the closing is a recap, a review and plan for next week, and then set them some revision or some challenges for their private practice. Update your software so that the progress is known and agreed, and schedule your next lesson and take the payment. Any final comments?
No, I mean each and every instructor will deliver the opening and closing in their own way, and we're all, if you've got a pupil who's only got an hour with you and you've had them for many, many lessons, you're not going to drag out the bit about, I've got dual controls. You're going to whip through that pretty quickly. But obviously for your part 3 and your standards check, you're going to make sure that it's good and clear.
Thank you.